principles of our democracy: due process, the presumption of innocence, and fundamental. Ridley Thomas's compensation claim is a major victory for due process, the presumption of innocence, and fundamental fairness to which we are all entitled. This settlement represents a tacit acknowledgement by the City of Los Angeles that City Controller Ron Galperin, aided and abetted by City Attorney Mike Feuer and former City Council President Nuri Martinez, who was forced to resign in disgrace, excessively abused their power. Their actions were not just legally wrong, they were harmful to Ridley Thomas's legal defense. You cannot accuse an individual, take away the seat to which they were duly elected, their health care in the midst of a pandemic, I might add, their pension and their salary, then tell them that while they are suspended, they cannot earn outside income, and somehow expect that they will have the resources to fight and defend their good name. It was preposterous then, and in retrospect, it's even more outrageous now. Rest squarely on the shoulders of Nuri Martinez, who allowed her personal political ambitions, racial animosity, and thirst for power to override good governance and good judgment. It was abundantly clear on that now infamous leaked audio tape that Martinez wanted to punish and tarnish Ridley Thomas, and she did, but she ruined herself in the process. Big Mama always said, God don't like ugly, and he ain't fond of cute. Once Nuri Martinez's toxic leadership was no more, the council quickly and correctly moved to resolve an injustice born in part by their own rush to judgment and abdication of responsibility in performing due diligence. Their settlement action this week starts the process of restoring honor and trust. In March, Ridley Thomas will finally have his day in court and a chance to restore his good name. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm
gonna try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth, but I'll be alright as long as I can find the good. Yes, I will. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem to like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while.
Live from the Leimert Park, USA, I'm Tavis Smiley, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. So glad to see you and me back in stride again. Our phone number, 1-800-920-1580, 1-800-920-1580. All of our socials can be found at KBLA 1580. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, everything at KBLA 1580. Let me also invite you to download our app at KBLA 1580. Download the app right now and listen to us anywhere in the world in real time, but only if you download the KBLA 1580 app right now. Should you miss us any day in real time, check out the podcast of our program by going to the app, the website, Anchor, Spotify, Apple, so many places to get the podcast of this program and listen at your leisure. Should you miss us any day in real time, but I am delighted to have you along live with us today for the next 3 hours. You can also watch the live stream of this program by tapping on the KBLA TV icon on our app or by going to our YouTube channel. Let me also invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. Another great show on tap for you today in our second hour, 2 conversations. Up first, we will chat with LA Times columnist Gustavo Arellano about his provocative piece entitled Haters Leave Kevin De Leon Alone. You're playing into his game. On the B side of hour 2, A conversation about technology and innovation, specifically whether or not technology and innovation are still improving our lives, our nation's overall economic health, enhancing our freedom of expression, and America's overall security. Some think we have finally reached a point of diminishing returns. We will talk with Doug Kelly of the American Edge Project on the backside of hour 2. In our third hour, have you ever doubted your expertise, self-worth, and ability in your life, career, or business? I'm raising my hand. I sure have. You may feel like a fraud, but it's actually called imposter syndrome, and over 70% of professionals have experienced this phenomenon. Award-winning business and leadership strategist Christina Joy Whitaker joins us in hour 3 today to help steer you toward higher impact, increased visibility, recognition, and career satisfaction. But in this first hour today, a celebration of and tribute to one of America's most prolific columnists, Leonard Pitts Jr., who just yesterday announced his retirement from an illustrious journalism career that spanned over 4 decades. His syndicated column was a must-read copy for many of us, and I am pleased, delighted, and honored to welcome the now retired, that sounds funny to say, the now retired Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, Leonard Pitts Jr., to this program. Leonard, how are you, my friend? It's been too long.
I'm unemployed. How are you?
And that right there is why he's a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist. I am well. If I complain, Leonard, I'd be an ingrate. I'm delighted to have you on today. And
thank you.
And let me just start with this. Congratulations, first of all. I'm tripping over myself. Congratulations. I feel honored that you'd make this your first interview after announcing your retirement in your column yesterday, which I and many others read, of course. And I just want to start by saying that as one who's been in this game for a while, not quite as long as you, there are some people, as I said a moment ago, whose copy for many of us is must-read. There are some people who have engaged in the work and the witness of voicing those concerns that many of us have, but we don't have access to the Miami Herald. We don't have syndicated columnists to challenge others, to re-examine their assumptions, to expand their inventory of ideas, to revel and respect the humanity and the dignity of African-American people and beyond. And you've done that so remarkably well for all these years. And I'm delighted again to have you in conversation for the hour. So much to talk about regarding your career and the way you see the world and what you're going to do next. But there are many of us who owe you a debt of gratitude for all that you've done to put our story on the front pages of papers all across this country. So thank you, Leonard Pitts Jr.
Well, thank you, David. I'm a little bit overwhelmed by all of that, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No, you've earned every bit of it, and just wanted to get that out of the way first. So let me start with the obvious question, at least for me. Mm-hmm. What occasioned this article yesterday announcing your retirement?
Well, there's a couple of reasons I decided to retire. One is because I never started out to be a columnist in the first place. I started out to be a novelist. Mm-hmm. I've always said that columnist has the second best job that a writer can have, which is that they pay you to write about anything in the world you want. Mm-hmm. But the novelist has the best job because you want in a world that you get to create, which is like, that's like, living in a candy store. So, I've spent all these years doing the column and writing about the world, and I want to go and create my own worlds and spend some time writing about those.
Yeah.
Also, the other part is I'm tired. I mentioned in the column being emotionally exhausted. And I don't think people really, have a framework to really appreciate what that feels like until you've dealt with some of this craziness, that is going on in this country on a full-time basis. And I mean, in terms of having a responsibility to analyze and respond to it. It just drags you out after a while.
Yeah, I've not been in the game as long as you have, but again, after 4 decades of doing this, and I hear your point that you didn't start out to be a columnist. We'll come back to that in a second, I promise. But I want to say at this last point, because I'm feeling some of that myself right now. And again, I'm with all due respect to you, I haven't done it long, and I'm already feeling emotionally exhausted, particularly in this moment in late modernity. What is it, if you can unpack that for me in this particular moment, on top of all the years you've done it, but in this moment, what is it that has just been emotionally wearing you out?
The resilience of idiocy.
Yeah, wow. Here again. This is why he's a Pulitzer Prize winning off the top of his head. The resilience of idiocy. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it just is amazing to me. You know, I had the fortune or misfortune of being a child of the post-civil rights era. Mm-hmm. So I grew up, I went to college, I went to USC, you know, and had a bunch of white friends and you know, kind of thought, we're getting there, you know, that all that civil rights stuff, you know, by the 70s when I came along, you had All in the Family, you had Maude, so it's like racism was something that everybody agreed was stupid enough that you could laugh at. Mm-hmm. It was so stupid, it was a sitcom. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Archie Bunker and all that stuff. And the arc of my life has been, you know, from then to now has been a process of discovering how wrong we were, and how mistaken that judgment was, because while some of us were celebrating, others of us were calculating, and they had their plan of the 20th century, and they are well along in that in that process, and it's just very frustrating to sit and have chronicled that process. It's just, you know, I look at hate mail that I get, you know, sometimes, and it's like, you look at this stuff and it's people saying the same stupid stuff that people like them were saying 50, 60 years ago. And you read it and it doesn't make you scared, and it doesn't make you, angry, and it doesn't hurt your feelings, but it makes you tired. You know, it just I'm not sad. It just makes you tired. Like, really, dude? I mean, come on. Didn't they said the same stuff in 1954? Haven't we as a country learned and moved beyond this? By this point, it's just I can't improve on the resilience of idiocy. It just, the resilience of idiocy is just something that just makes you go, okay. Yeah. I've had
on that either. As I said 3 times already, that is why he's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, or at least was, retired officially as of yesterday. This radio station is flagship in Los Angeles, of course heard all across the country, but since we're flagship in LA, you heard him say he went to USC, so can I just say go Trojans on behalf of Leonard Pitts. But that frame he just laid out, though, that frame, you heard it right, celebrating versus calculating. Many of us were celebrating and they were calculating, and because of that, Leonard Pitts is just emotionally exhausted and decided to put his pen down after being a columnist and writer, journalist extraordinaire for over 4 decades, and now is moving to the world of being a novelist, continuing, I should say. He's already done it, but continuing to be a novelist. But there's so much to unpack given the wisdom and the vantage point and the prism through which Leonard Pitts has seen this country over the last 4 decades as a brother columnist, first at the Miami Herald and syndicated beyond that one paper. I'm delighted to have him the day after his retirement on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. Good thing we've got 3 hours. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I'm here with Lisa Stevens, Senior Business Consultant with Chase for Business. Lisa, what's one tip you'd give to business owners here in the Crenshaw area?
I love that you asked that question. I'm originally from Brooklyn, and I grew up in an area that's very similar to Crenshaw. So this is near and dear to my heart. And if I could only leave a business owner with just one, I would tell the business owner to identify their why. And I think that is so important, because your why is going to be that strength on those days where you feel like you're struggling. Your why is going to be that stepping stone. Those days that you want to give up, your why is going to be the reason that you get back up.
And how would you advise business owners looking to acquire capital? What do they need to know before stepping inside the branch to ask for funding?
So 3 things. I do want to share this when it comes to the power of capital, and just understand that capital is a 3-part of a business, right? It's not always about the monetary piece, but if you first put that intellectual, right, what do I need to know? That social, who I need to know, that will help you to then package for that monetary piece. So no matter who you're banking with, you should know your banker. Never walk into a bank and you're transactional only.
It's just like Lisa to drop gems. I'm Maisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
Leaving things half done, not a good option. Like a half-baked peach cobbler. A gummy crust? I don't think so.
A half-done hairdo.
All done.
Shouldn't the pearls be on both sides? Or a half of a domino?
Bam! Big six!
But where's the other half? Don't go halfway, especially with your immunity to COVID-19. Keep everyone safer this season by staying up to date with your vaccines and boosters. Visit myturn.ca.gov to find one near you. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
IRS. 3 letters that strike fear into everyone, and for a good reason. The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth, and being in debt to the IRS can have serious consequences. Oftentimes, it begins with the IRS sending you a collection letter, and then escalates. And before you know it, they're garnishing your paychecks. Home or business could be at risk, but thankfully, there's Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 most trusted tax relief firm. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their tax professionals have the expertise and experience to help you put your tax debt to rest. Call now and get your free consultation today.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Shoot Your Shot SoCal, a self-service photo booth, perfect for all types of events, birthdays, concerts, festivals, weddings, and more. Send images and videos instantly via email and enhance guest experience. Contact Shoot Your Shot on Instagram. They serve Inland Empire, Los Angeles, and Orange County with friendly and reliable staff. We will see you at the next corporate event, taking still photos and boomerangs with Shoot Your Shot SoCal. Go to Instagram today and book your Shoot Your Shot Cal event.
Let's unpack a little bit more with Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed, with Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist Leonard Pitts Jr., who announced yesterday his retirement after 4 decades from being a columnist to a college professor, radio producer, lecturer, best-selling author, and now will devote his time 24/7 to writing novels. I want to come back to that point again in just a second here. Leonard's already dropped some bars already in this conversation, some things I want to pick up if I can and interrogate. Let me start with this, Leonard. I was struck, as you heard me say a moment ago, by this frame you laid out, that while we were celebrating, others were calculating. You then went on to make the point that after all these years, it's just debilitating emotionally. To read some of the hate mail you get, et cetera, and just really look and see where this country is and where it is not. I've said many times that this country's grown older, but we've not grown wiser. We've grown older, but we ain't grown up yet. And so I celebrate your frame. I get it. The question is how it feels after 4+ decades of doing this to realize when you read your mail and when you see the condition, the state of our union, if I can put it that way, that again, we've made some progress, but good Lord, I mean, the fragility of our democracy is on display for all of us to see. But my question again to you is, after 4 decades of doing this and trying to get America to see herself in her true light, how does it feel to realize that after all you've done, it really, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's disappointing to be perfectly brutally honest with you. I was at dinner with a cousin of mine a few days ago. He's a few years older than me, and he said something that stuck with me. He said, "I'd never realized how much they hated us until these last few years." Because, and what he meant by that, and I kind of feel the same way, is that when you are willing to flush the entire country, rather than to share it, rather than to do, as Dr. King said in the last speech of his life, be true to what you said on paper. When you're willing to just destroy the whole framework, then that tells me something. I never thought that I was naive about the degree of animosity out there, whether it be racial, LGBTQ, whether it be, just cultural, period, whoever you want to put, on the lower end of the cultural totem pole. I never thought I was naive about the degree of animosity, but I think maybe I did underestimate it, and that's a sobering thing to realize that, here's the thing. I always tell people, America is perfect, or as perfect as anything human beings ever constructed. There's nothing wrong with America. we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal, da, 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 da. As again, to quote Dr. King, all we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. So if America is America, meaning if it's true to what is said on paper, we got no problems. We can find something else to talk about. The problem is not America. The problem is and always has been Americans, who refuse to live up to America. And January 6th being only the most recent and visceral example. I mean, these folks are willing. Not just the folks that came to the Capitol, but the ones who sit, elsewhere talking about, the election was fixed and this, that, and the other, or using the law to try to restrict people's access to the ballot. These folks would rather destroy America, or destroy any hope of America because they as Americans can't be, that's frustrating. It's a failure. It's a failure of human nature, on an unimaginable and obscene scale. That's what we're seeing here. Your
metaphor, your frame of America versus Americans, as you invoke Dr. King, reminds me of something else King said to Harry Belafonte one day. His friend Harry, Mr. B, told me this story. He was talking to Martin King one day. Dr. King said, Harry, he said, I love Jesus Christ. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. It ain't Christ I'm worried about. It's these Christians. That's my problem. It ain't Jesus Christ. Yeah. It's these Christians, man. These so-called Christians that wear me out. So I
we all believe what we claim. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go.
If we all believed what we claim to believe, and we all stood for what we claim to stand for, you and I would have nothing to sit and worry about. We could discuss, the Lakers collapse. That would be the biggest story of the year, which broke my heart last night. But that would be the biggest story. That'd be what we should have be talking about, because all the other stuff would not be operative. We wouldn't have to worry about the inequities and people not having access to the ballot box and et cetera, because it would already be. That would already be resolved. The framework was already laid down in the Constitution and the Declaration.
Yeah. So let me ask this question then, Larry. So, given what you just laid out, when I go back to your comments about the letters that you receive in the mail sometimes, and how it doesn't scare you, it doesn't this, it doesn't that, it just makes you shake your head. But are you scared? Are you frightened? Do you shudder for the future of our democracy?
Well, if I was younger and had fewer kids or no kids and grandkids, I would be seriously considering, disembarking from this country. That's how I feel about the future of this democracy. I'm very worried for it. I am torn between two opposite poles. One is, my fear for the future of this democracy, in my sense that, until and unless we, decide some very basic things about whether or not we want to be of us who have been in historically marginalized positions are going to be, in deep trouble. I'm torn between that and the order from my ancestors to stand up and fight. My ancestors had, as bad as things are, my ancestors, my forebears, had it much worse than you or I ever have, and they persevered. The frustration is that I've built a life on their perseverance, only to see people try to take that life away, try to erode the progress. And I don't think they ever had to deal with that per se, at least not to this degree. But what they did have to deal with is some social conditions that are much worse than anything you or I will ever know. I remember back when I had the death threats from the neo-Nazis back in 2007, and I mentioned to somebody, I said that it was the worst. It was one of the worst experiences of my professional life. And then I thought about it, and for Medgar Evers, that would have just been Tuesday. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So I'm torn between those two things. Do I feel like at this advanced age that I want to, sit here and continue to wrestle with this supposed democracy that doesn't want to be what it says it is? Or in the name of my forebears, do I want to do that, or do I want to just go somewhere and live out my remaining life as Du Bois did, in some measure of contentment?
In Ghana, but he did it in Ghana. He just left. He went to Accra. Yeah, he got out of here, man.
Josephine Baker. There were a few that did not die on American soil. Precisely because of this.
Yeah. I was telling somebody the other day, this is a fascinating factoid for me that I'm sure Leonard knows, some of you may not. Du Bois just gave up on America. After all that he'd written, he just gave up, went to Accra, died. Cell phones back then, and there was no internet. He had died, and it took a while for the word to get from Ghana to the U.S. of A. And they announced literally during the March on Washington that Dr. Du Bois had died in Ghana. Talk about a moment. During the March on Washington, before King gets to the podium, they announced that Du Bois has passed away. Dr. Du Bois has passed away in Ghana. It's just a fascinating factoid for me. I'm looking at my clock here. I got to step aside for news, traffic, and sports in about 60 seconds. Let me just get this question in right quick, and we'll continue on the other side and get started at least. So I'm wondering, since you've written about this and I've talked about it, whether or not the fact that we are some years away from being a majority-minority country where people of color will outnumber white folk for the first time, does that give you any hope, or am I misreading how you may feel about that?
I think that's the root of the problem. It's a cause for hope, but it's also the root of the problem, to be perfectly honest.
Perfectly said. We're talking with Leonard Pitts Jr., a long-time, illustrious journalist, wrote for many years for the Miami Herald. His syndicated column, for those of us who didn't live in Miami or get the Miami Herald, was a must-read copy for many, many years. Yesterday, in his column, he announced after 4 decades plus of doing this, he was stepping aside and spending the rest of his years writing novels. And so we are celebrating Leonard Pitts Jr. in this hour, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, and so much more to talk to him about when we come forward. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The busy travel season, along with surging RSV, flu, and COVID cases, has experts reminding people they should not be leaving home without travel medical insurance.
Most health plans only cover you within your home state.
That's Omar Kwan, the founder of Goose Insurance. He says travel insurance has two components, medical and non-medical.
Not all travel insurance policies are the same. Not all exclusions are the same, or not all benefits are the same, so make sure you get a policy that does cover you for unstable pregnancy medical conditions.
The last Confederate statue has officially been removed in Richmond, Virginia. City officials took down the A.P. Hill statue. Officials are still trying to decide where the statue will go to next. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris. Source. The Black Information Network at BINnews.com.
Heading in towards Lincoln Heights, got a crash 5 north of her Main Street. They made it to the right-hand shoulder, but still seeing delays from the I-10. Pretty tough coming into downtown. And in Torrance, you got a vehicle stalled on the 405 north end of Normandy Avenue. They're trying to make it to the right-hand shoulder. That's a slow drive starting back at Long Beach Boulevard. CP getting reports of a crash in Linwood, blocking the fast lane on the 105 eastbound past the 710 freeway. A little bit of slowing as you approach the 710. And in Bray, got a crash 57 northbound on the Imperial Highway off-ramp. CP trying to get that off the freeway.
At Lowe's, every pro is an MVP to us. MVP's Pro Rewards members visit Lowe's now and earn bonus points on select products and brands like Power Pro. Then redeem for Lowe's Heat gift cards and more. Offer valid through 1/8/23. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts if any. Subject to program terms. Points expire 12/31/23.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers will have a hard time getting last night's overtime loss to Boston out of their system. They had a 13-point lead with just under 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but couldn't hold it. The Celtics win it in OT 122-118. 44 points from Celtics forward Jason Tatum. Anthony Davis had 37 points and 12 rebounds, but he missed 2 crucial free throws with 28 seconds left in the fourth quarter. The Clippers, who beat the Celtics by 20 Monday night, are back in action tonight against Minnesota. It looks like Beckham Jr. is not going to play this season. The Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants, and Buffalo Bills have decided not to sign Beckham. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by MVP Accident Attorneys. When it comes to your settlement, we're slam dunk. Call 833-MVP-WINS or check their website at themvp.com for a free case review.
When you're the victim of a car accident, hiring the right law firm can be the difference between a rewarding settlement and striking out. Call the pros at MVP Accident Attorneys at 833-MVP-WINS for your free consultation.
Call me your MVP.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
If you have certain chronic conditions such as heart disease,
asthma,
diabetes, and you're 19 years of age or older, 52,
36,
42, you may be at increased. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I'm going to ask my doctor about getting vaccinated
with Prevnar 20.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours, now through December 20th. Donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Find a righteous rage, and don't be afraid to say what you see. For KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Tavis Smiley. He is Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Leonard Pitts Jr., and we are spending this hour in tribute to and in celebration of his long career, 4 decades plus, as one of the most brilliant writers this country has ever read, and I am just delighted that he made this his first stop after announcing his retirement in his column yesterday. So, Leonard, let me just ask you a broad question. You take it where you want to take it. You look back now on your 4 decades, and I'm curious as to what you make of the state of our journalism profession right about now. He laughs. Okay.
Yeah, because there's so many places to take that.
Yeah.
I think we are under siege. I think that we do one of the most important jobs in the democracy that can be done. Informing the people. I think there's a reason that Jefferson said that if he was given the choice of government without newspapers or newspapers without government, he wouldn't hesitate to choose newspapers without government. I think all of that, and I also think that massively over the last 20 years, if you really want to break it down, by by attempting to correct for our biases and perceived biases against conservatives, and there were some, and they did have some, they did have a case to a degree, but by overcorrecting to a point where what we try to do now is what I call journalism without judgment, and the media critic Margaret Sullivan calls it journalism reporting from nowhere. So it's basically this idea that that there's two sides to everything. There's both. We got a both sides everything. I'm reminded of an old editor, and the story may be apocryphal, but I heard about this old editor at the Miami Herald who used to, when some young reporter was trying overly hard to, both sides of the story, would say, so we're going to do 5 minutes for Hitler and 5 minutes for the Jews. And the point being that at some point, as a journalist, there is news by definition is an act of judgment, and you have to embrace that. obviously you have to be fair to every reasonable point of view. You have to balance every reasonable point of view. But at some point, you have to decide that a point of view is not reasonable, and therefore that when 90% of climate scientists say, the planet is burning, there's no need to bring on that fringe element who say, no, it's not. I submit that when people are talking about shredding the Constitution and just basically throwing away our democracy, there's no reason to have a talking head on there defending that. Defending that. I think it's safe to report that from the point of view that this is a bad thing. I knew that we were in trouble. It wasn't the first time I knew we were in trouble, but I knew how deep the trouble was when the Wall Street Journal went out on this prissy little campaign of saying that they would not dub Donald Trump's statements lies. Well, we can't know what's in a lie. Suggests that we know what's in the person's head and what's in their attention, so we can't call them lies. We'll call them misstatements. Yeah, but when you've lied, when you've made 1,500 misstatements or 2,000 misstatements, when you're corrected on the quote unquote misstatements repeatedly, and you keep uttering the misstatements, somebody got to call it a lie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it took so long for media to realize what should have been obvious from the jump. And so, for as vital as we are in the maintenance of this democracy, we are also a large part of the reason because we refuse to be watchdogs. We continue this whole thing of trying to both sides everything into submission. We both sides Hillary Clinton and those doggone emails. The emails. The line I always say is, we pretended, the New York Times in particular, we pretended that both candidates had baggage, and both did, but Hillary's baggage was carry-on, and Donald Trump was toting steamer trunks behind him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but we pretended that it was roughly equal.
Yeah.
You hear me?
I hear you loud and clear, buddy.
So it's like, we bear responsibility, a large part of responsibility for the mess that this country is in just by pretending that, that up is down and black is white, and that people who say 2 + 2 = 6 may have a case.
Yeah. And now you hear and you see why I'm going to mislead the text, because his mind is so sharp. His way of seeing the world it just resonates with me. I'm going to miss reading this copy every week. Let me ask you, because you've taken me to this point, and it's now as propitious a time as I'll get to ask you this question, given what you just said. What is your view of the condition of truth in our democracy? It seems to me that truth these days is whatever we determine it to be, and because of what you just said now, I want to just get your take on we talked about the fragility of our democracy earlier. I could ask you about the fragility of truth, but talk to me about the state of truth in our system right now.
You remember that line, the Jack Nicholson line from A Few Good Men? You can't
handle the truth. Yeah.
I think the actual situation in this country is for a lot of us, not for all of us, but for too many of us, is you don't want the truth. What people want is not the truth. They say they want the truth. What they want is that which confirms what they already believe. And there's nothing new about this. The science on this goes back to 1979. That people have a bias against information that contradicts what they choose to believe, and that if you give them information that corrects the false information, not only will it not change their minds, but they'll double down on the false information. People don't like to change their minds from what they believe, so that's human nature. But you take what, and then you combine it with a media complex on the right that exists basically to keep you from ever having to change your mind. And you combine that with overall news media, the rest of us who have, fallen into this both sidesism trap. And, the truth can barely catch a break these days. The truth can be, it's small wonder. And then you combine all of that with the fact that foreign actors, the Soviets and the North Koreans, who knows who all else, have, seen this happening and are, with their troll farms, are doing the best they can to exacerbate this crack in the American democracy. In other words, they are, and we saw this in the election of 2016, I believe, also in the election of 2020. They are pumping out misinformation on an industrial scale. So before handle the truth, you have to first value the truth. You have to be willing to pledge allegiance to the truth, and I think that's something that many of us, and that crosses the political spectrum. I think that's something many of us are just loath to do. But the problem is, truth doesn't stop being truth just because you don't want to believe it. If you believe that gravity is a lie, step off the Grand Canyon, and gravity will show you what gravity is about. Gravity will show you what gravity is about. You can believe whatever you believe. Gravity doesn't care what you believe. You can believe whatever you want about gravity.
That's right.
You can believe but step off the building, step off the edge of the Grand Canyon, step off the curb. And gravity will show you how gravity rolls.
I love literature. Let me ask you this. Somebody once said that there are no good times to be black in America, and some times are worse than others. Because you have written so beautifully and so viscerally about this over these 4 decades, what do you see as the state of our people in America?
Pressed to the wall and fighting back. Whose poem am I quoting? Claude McKay. If we must die,
that's right.
Press to the wall and fighting back. I am so heartened by the role that we as African Americans and particularly women, black women, it must be said, have taken in sort of trying to save this democracy in spite of itself. Speaking specifically at the ballot boxes,
sure.
Going out to organize and vote against the parade of fools that are presented, by the political right. I think that's just heroic. The thing that people always forget about us as black folk is that we are the biggest patriots pretty much in this country.
Yes.
There may, and what I mean by that is it's lovely to and wave your flags, whatever, on the 4th of July, and it's easy to do that when the country has always been a conspiracy in your favor or in the favor of people like you. But when you love a country that has not ever loved you back, when ideals are larger than life but yet never large enough to include you, to love a country in that state, that is as my mom used to say, that's some hell of a psychology. That's patriotism at another level. And I think the only folk who can really claim that is us and maybe the American Indian brothers and sisters. Because not just to love it, but to fight for a country. I don't know if you're familiar with the Rupert Trimmingham story, but that always that. That always blows my mind. This brother Rupert Trimmingham, Army Corporal, wrote a letter to Yank magazine talking about the time that he and some other black men got off a train in some little town in Louisiana, 1940s during the war, and went to get something to eat and were turned away and told they had to go eat at the kitchen. And then they looked into the dining room and saw German prisoners of war who were traveling on that same train sitting in the dining room with their American soldier guards, having a meal, having a high old time. Now these are men who are sworn to destroy the country.
That's right.
And it's okay for us for them to eat in this dining room, but it's not okay for American soldiers who happen to be black. And then to go out and fight for that country anyway. That's some patriotism on another. I get so angry when people try to lecture black folk on patriotism, because if you had the patriotism that black folk have shown in this country is just superhuman.
He's preaching.
It's really superhuman.
He's preaching, and as you well know, Leonard, black folk had to ride. These black soldiers had to ride in the back of the train behind these German war criminals. Literally, we are there defending the country, fighting to end this war, and they put these Negro soldiers on the back of the train, seated behind these German war criminals. I've said many times that we have learned to love this country in spite of, not because of. We'll continue with Leonard Pitts Jr. when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where truth prevails. The tricky station is down the dial.
I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go.
Ain't Too Proud is a celebration that brings the audience to its feet.
As you know it,
The Grammy-winning songs. The Tony-winning moves. Ain't Too Proud. The Life and Times of the Temptations. Now at the Amundsen through January 1st only. Tickets at AmundsenTheater.org.
Did you know that LA County Library has free Wi-Fi at all 85 library locations? That's right, free Wi-Fi. Now they also offer free Wi-Fi in parking lots at participating locations. Visit a participating LA County Library location, park in a library parking spot, bring your own device, connect to the Wi-Fi, and you're ready to connect with your friends and family, do some online shopping, browse your social media accounts, answer emails, do your homework, and so much more. You won't need a library card to connect, but you can sign up for one while you're there and get access to free books, ebooks, music, movies, and more. For additional information, log on to lacountylibrary.org/Wi-Fi, lacountylibrary.org/Wi-Fi, that's lacountylibrary.org/Wi-Fi.
Central Neighborhood Health Foundation is a full-service network of federally qualified health care centers that serves local communities throughout Los Angeles, River. CNHF clinics provide low-cost to no-cost, compassionate, comprehensive, quality health care, which includes primary care services for chronic disease and diabetes management, pediatric and women's services, preventive care, vision and dental screenings, COVID-19 testing and vaccines, flu vaccines, behavioral health, HIV, and substance use services. Virtual telehealth visits are available from the comfort of your home with highly qualified physicians and medical professionals. CNHF also provides peer support specialist training and help with housing navigation. Central Neighborhood Health Foundation. Your wellness is our priority. Comprehensive care built on trust and respect. For more information, visit cnhfclinics.org or call 213-536-5815 today to locate a clinic near you.
Conversations that matter. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm watching my time here, Leonard Pitts Jr. I'm getting all kind of messages. Let me read one and give you a chance to respond right quick here. Leonard Pitts Jr. has stated, Tavis, that Miami's complexity and diversity in terms of race, ethnicity, national origin, and intra-group tensions make it a, quote, laboratory, close quote, for what America is becoming. What then does he believe are the barriers and solutions to Miami and the nation moving forward?
Well, Miami is still figuring it out, which the last part of that is Miami is a warning to America. You know, if Miami can get it right, then the rest of us can get it right. The problem is that, or the challenge is that in this country, for most of the years that we've been talking about race, it's been a bipolar discussion, you know, black and white, and that's been pretty much it. And Miami is like, hey, you know, no senor. There's some others here. You know, Miami is a reminder, you know, of the polyglot nature of the challenge that this country faces. I think, you know, not to be Pollyanna-ish about it, but I think that, you know, if there's going to be salvation, is that, well, two things. One, that we learn to identify and value, you know, this whole thing of being America, that we sort of rededicate ourselves to that, which we really haven't done. But the other thing, I think, and Reverend William Barber is kind of onto this, I think there's really a need for us to start defining or understanding the things that we have in common beyond race. You know, poor is poor, regardless of whether you are, you know, black, Cuban, whatever, American, Native American, you know, whatever. And I think that one of the problems in this country is that the powers that be have historically, ever since the post-Civil War era, used race as a dividing line to keep us at each other's throats rather than giving us time to really deal with an economic system which is no friend to any of us. Yeah. You know, which exists to keep all of it, to exploit and to keep all of us down. You know, it's this whole thing. Let me give you somebody else to hate. Let me give you this shiny toy of racism to deal with, and maybe you won't see how I'm picking your pocket and you know, just marginalizing even you, even though you're white. Yeah, you've got your whiteness, and whiteness carries a certain amount of social capital. But you're white, and your kids still being miseducated. You're white, and you still live in a food desert. You're white, and you still have no adequate you really understand all those things, yeah, you got the social capital, but how far is that social capital carrying you? If all it means is, yeah, well, I'm better than black folk, maybe you might want to reconsider your allegiance to that social capital.
Yeah. I'm going to miss, I keep saying I'm going to miss Leonard Pitts. I don't know where I'm going to get this. Nobody in the nation writes, has written for the last 40 years in the way that Leonard Pitts Jr. writes. And if you never read his stuff, shame on you. I'm sorry that you missed out. But what you hear him expressing now, the way he talks is the way he writes. He gives it to you straight, no chaser. And I'm going to miss it. But there are novels to come from Leonard Pitts Jr. And in our remaining moments with him, we'll talk about the novels that he's about to bring forth. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Special Needs Network Incorporated, together with Assembly Member Isaac Bryan, cordially invites you to Christmas Care Exchange in the Park, Sunday, December 18th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Lamert Park, located on 43rd Place in Crenshaw. Experience a day of giving, love, community, and support. There will be celebrity guests, arts and crafts, resource fair, and more. Come take a picture with Santa. Enjoy the DJ. This is a free event open to the public Sunday, December 18th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Don't miss the Christmas Care Exchange in Lamert Park, located on 43rd Place in Crenshaw. This is the season of giving, and the Special Needs Network, together with Assembly Member Isaac Bryan, wants to bless you Sunday, December 18th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will be toys for all kids up to 18 years old. Children must be present. See you Sunday. Thanks to our sponsors, Let's Behold, The Butterfly Effect, and SEIU 721, State Council on Developmental Disabilities, Niagara Water, Lakeshore Learning, Puck Schools, Crystal Stairs, Beach Cities, Beta Gamma Nu, Casa Lopez, and Los Fabulocos.
Oh, that's easy. Salonpas pain-relieving patches. The proven medicines in Salonpas patches reduce my pain and let me do the things I need to do every day.
In a recent clinical study, patients using Salonpas reported improved sleep, mood, and the ability to work. They had less pain and were able to reduce their use of oral pain medications.
For pain, I use Salonpas. It's good medicine.
Dell Technologies' Days of Deals for Business start now with fresh, limited quantity deals on tech to drive productivity. Save on select performance laptops and desktops powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Don't forget special pricing on the latest monitors, docks, and accessories, plus free shipping on everything, and special financing with Dell Business Credit. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
In recent editions of the Los Angeles Standard newspaper, read about Karen Bass's plans to curb crime and homelessness. Black merchants purchase a building in Lamert Park Village. The California Task Force to Study Reparations report. Local HBCU advocates Brandon Miller and Nicole Ford jump the broom. Interior designer Tamara Marie creates environments in people's homes that invoke positive. KBLA and USC's annual joint football tailgate. Introductory aviation and aerospace programs for black youth. The Handy Foundation trains people of color for behind-the-scenes jobs in the film industry. Black-owned LA Grind Coffee and Tea Bar in Mid-City. And black-owned 1010 Wine and Events in Inglewood. Read about these stories at www.lastandardnewspaper.com.
Interrogating your assumptions and expanding your inventory of ideas. Let's get back to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
So, as of yesterday, Leonard Pitts Jr., the column is no more, and now you will spend all your time writing these novels. What does that do for you? What do you get out of being a novelist?
Well, as I said at the beginning, writing a novel is, it's the ultimate freedom for me because you get to create a world and go play in it. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the best there is. Plus, I think you get to interrogate the world and the truth in a way that you don't really get to do as a columnist per se. Like I said at the beginning, column writing is the second best job there is for a writer. This is the first best. Like the last book, The Last Thing You Surrendered, dealt with some issues of morality and faith and war and race during the Second World War that had been rattling around in my head for years. Mm-hmm. And there was no way to really get at that in 615 words in a column, But this, this allowed me to stretch out and really deal with some stuff and say some things. that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So that is. I'm like a kid, let loose in the candy store at this point.
Yeah. How do you process the lack of immediacy? By immediacy, I mean immediate response. You write a column, everybody responds to it. We're all talking about it. When you write a novel, it takes you years sometimes to do that. So it's a different kind of response from the audience to your work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely is. I've heard actors talk about that in the context of making a movie, that is one of the drawbacks. The thing about writing a novel, I have people come up to me all the time having read a book. Oh, Mr. Pitts, I'm sure you're sick of hearing this, but so and so and so. No, I'm not sick of hearing. I waited 2 years to hear this. Please. Because you're sitting at your desk in the dark of morning writing something, and you're writing it like, is this going to connect with anybody? Is this going to mean anything? Are people going to relate to this the way I want them to relate? And if you don't get your answer till 2 years later, so when that answer starts to come, oh heck yes, please tell me more. Tell me more.
His name is Leonard Pitts Jr. He's off now to write novels. For all the years left in front of him, for as long as he wants, I should say. Today, we celebrate him. Yesterday, he announced after 4 decades, he is stepping away from his column. And as I've said 20 times already in this hour, I don't know where I'm going to go now to get my fix, because Leonard Pitts Jr. is just so amazing with the written word. This brother, as you can tell, can turn a phrase. He can turn a phrase like nobody I know. But Leonard, all the best to you. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you the day after. I look forward to reading your novels in the years to come. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
All the best to you. Hour 2 of Tavis Smiley. After news, traffic, and sports, you are listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network.
I've been through Omicron